Welcome to TEDxAshley. So close your eyes and imagine yourself at 10 years old. Now imagine that you have younger siblings that you care for because your single mother is working long hours to provide for your family. And while she works long hours, it isn't enough to keep you off welfare and the food that it provides. And when it's gone, it's gone. You've grown accustomed to going to bed hungry. You wonder if you'll be able to afford to keep living in this apartment much longer. You have many fears and anxieties about how you're going to survive. And now imagine having to attend school and be successful. As you can imagine, thriving under these conditions is incredibly difficult, and yet it's a reality that many children face every day. Social justice is a concept of fair and just relations between the individual and society. This is measured by the explicit and tacit terms for the distribution of wealth, opportunities, personal activity, and social privileges. Classism is the systematic oppression of poor and working people by those who control the necessary resources. Classism is held in place by a system of beliefs that ranks people according to their economic status, their breeding, their job, and level of education. One of the silent groups significantly affected by classism is children. The Bakersfield City School District boasts that it is the largest district in Kern County, serving approximately 30,000 students across 44 elementary and junior high schools. Out of those 33 elementary schools, 28 of them have 80% or higher recorded number of students reported as socioeconomically disadvantaged, based on the Student School Accountability Report Card reported using data from 2017-2018 school year. Stella Hills, the school where I'm going to be teaching 5th grade, has a whopping 97.5% of the student population reported as socioeconomically disadvantaged. Those who are socioeconomically disadvantaged fall under the trap of classism. And according to the American Psychological Association, socioeconomic status affects overall human functioning, including our physical and mental health. Poverty specifically is not a single factor, but rather is characterized by multiple physical and psychosocial stressors. Research indicates that socioeconomic status is a key factor influencing quality of life across the lifespan for children, youth, and families. People that are socioeconomically disadvantaged suffer psychological issues such as higher levels of aggression, emotional and behavioral problems. They also have higher rates of anxiety and depression. They suffer physical ailments like higher levels of obesity. And according to research, poverty is a reliable predictor of abuse and increased risk of victimization. According to research, poverty is a reliable predictor of abuse and neglect in the household. These children are also more likely to be victims of violence, with an increased risk of victimization for racial and ethnic minorities. And 7 in 10 children whom are socioeconomically disadvantaged live in a single mother household. And research has shown family disruption increases the risk of school failure by 24 percentage points among Hispanics, 17 percentage points among whites, and 13 percentage points among blacks. Socioeconomically disadvantaged students also suffer in education, having overall decreased educational success. They often enter school with significantly less linguistic knowledge, which widens the gap at every grade level. They are more likely to be absent from school, and their early experiences and environmental influences can have a lasting impact on learning. Speaking from experience, I grew up in a socioeconomically disadvantaged household with a single mother and was tasked to take care of my younger brother. It's taken me years of counseling to manage my depression that my therapist says I've had my entire life. I had anger issues and difficulty building relationships as a result of the physical abuse that I encountered. And because class is only one aspect of our individuality, and I have academic resilience and dedication to strive for more, I was able to move myself from the poor class to the working class. But I still have a long way to go. In a study by Auwarter and Aruguete, they examined school counselors' perceptions of students who vary in gender and socioeconomic status. Their results showed that counselors perceive students from low socioeconomic status backgrounds as having less promising futures and lower math abilities. As a human being, we come with all our own experiences and understandings of how our class affects us, and we all have biases. It's important that we as educators do our best to ensure that our biases are not limiting students and their educational experiences. The growing income gap between adults, as well as youth that are described by Putnam in Our Kids, The American Dream in Crisis, is yet another significant reason why it's important to help teachers understand how race, ethnicity, gender, and class influence classroom interactions and student learning, and to comprehend the ways in which these variables affect student aspirations and academic engagement. Socioeconomically disadvantaged is more than just low income, and its impact on social injustice is staggering, which is where we have the concept of intersectionality. Intersectionality is the idea that identity cannot be fully understood via a single lens, such as race, gender, or class alone. In the TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story, Chimamanda Adichie warns that if we hear only a single story about another person or culture, we risk a critical misunderstanding. Our identities and the social meaning attributed to them must be understood in their interdependence on one another. Identity is multidimensional. We are not one thing, but the product of many. We can examine the injustices associated with class through many lenses. For example, there's gender. Did you know that low socioeconomic status boys have poorer general achievement than girls? And while very few low socioeconomic girls pursue careers in math and science-related fields, there is race. Did you know ethnic minority, low socioeconomic status children are at a greater risk of poverty than their white counterparts? And when we look at the perspective of intersectionality, we realize that it's a complex problem with many prongs of possible solution. As teachers, it's important to remember that we teach people. And when those students come into our classrooms, they bring their identities with them. Everything they experience in our rooms is bound up in historical context. Examining the issue of classism with our understanding of intersectionality, our understanding deepens and becomes multidimensional. So, how can we, as educators, disrupt the continual effects of the social injustices of classism? So how can we, as educators, disrupt the continual effects of the social injustices of classism? Well, for starters, we can recognize that education is not meant to be experienced in a vacuum. We need to teach them that education matters and is relevant to their lives and events happening all around them. Informed and reflective knowledge is essential for effective teaching in diverse schools and classrooms. We can start an open dialogue with ourselves. We can consider our family, our friends, our most trusted business associates. What classes are they from? Do we notice a pattern in the class positions of those in our closest inner circles? Then we can ask those same questions of our students. Coming to a head, why is our class so relevant to our success in life? Recognizing where we stand on the spectrum can be a starting point for change. In our lessons, we can further promote the skills needed to orchestrate the kind of change that will lead to justice because they're already built into our curriculum. Things like problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration, and perseverance. These skills that can be applied to various subjects and promote student thinking and future success. An activity that helps students connect classism into their learning of current contexts would be to have students look at the labels on 3 items students use most today, whether they're clothes, shoes, technology, or food. For example, Chromebooks, and have them track down the corporate chain between themselves and the producer. Where was the product made? How much did they pay for it? How much does the average worker who made the product earn, and under what conditions? How much did the corporation make for its shareholders in profits? The benefits of an activity of this sort would be to encourage students to see the bigger picture, the understanding of the wealthy class maintaining its wealth because the labors of the working class. The wealthy hold the resources. They hold the power. And while issues of social justice can seem overwhelming, it is our responsibility as educators to move students in a direction where they can be active members of society and fight to disrupt social injustices that affect them and future generations.